now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay alongside John and Kellen, and we're lucky enough today to be joined by actress Lyndsey Craine. Lyndsey has starred in several films, including Book of Monsters, Zomblogalypse, and most recently, Troma's Eating Miss Campbell. Lyndsey, welcome to the Sanctum, and thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
So I was going to go ahead and start for us today. I recently watched Eating Miss Campbell, really enjoyed the film. The guys know that I enjoy B movies anyway, which this doesn't even feel like a B movie. The acting's really good in it. The production quality is really good. It's insane, like most Troma films. But in Eating Miss Campbell, you play Beth Connor, a vegan goth cannibal teen. A lot to take in.
Yeah.
At a British high school that is planning a mass shooting for financial gains. It's a little more complex than that, but you're also self-aware of the fact that you're stuck in a horror film. How do you approach playing a character that is the centerpiece for all of this insanity?
It was a lot. It was a lot. I worked really closely with the director, Liam Regan, just to kind of, there's just so much going on with her. But she's also like she's such a lonely character as well. So it was trying to work out she's got a lot of internal conflict going on, but she kind of gives off that impression that she doesn't really care what anyone thinks about her, which she doesn't, but I think deep down she obviously does. But there's so much going on, and there's so many characters, a lot of kind of cartoon character style characters in there, and she's weirdly, even though she's a vegan goth cannibal, she's the most grounded character in the film.
Right.
So it was quite fun to kind of play off a lot of these more crazy characters, and breaking the fourth wall was actually super fun to do. It's something I've never done before, and yeah, it was difficult. It was definitely the most challenging character I've had, but Liam was great, and we were able to work really closely together, just to kind of really nail exactly what he wanted and what I could bring to the role. And but yeah, it was a challenging role, definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth to this movie that I think the casual viewer may miss. You go into Troma films kind of expecting campy, expecting gory, but there's a lot of depth, which leads me to my next question. Aside from the typical gore and innuendo that we've come to know from Troma films, there's a strong message being conveyed through political satire and social commentary. Did that attract you to this film at all, playing a role in a campy horror film with surprising depth?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different to any film that's kind of out there. So I got brought on to the film very early on. So it was Book of Monsters actually premiered at Fright Fest, and Liam contacted me shortly after that saying, look, I've got an idea for a film, and I'd always wanted to work with him. So I actually was on board before the film became what it is. And we also had a huge gap because of COVID. So we actually had an 18-month break between the two blocks of filming. So a lot of the film actually changed throughout that block of filming. But yeah, when he just kind of explained the character to me, that was kind of what I wanted to do. Just the whole, as I said, breaking the fourth wall and just having the challenge of that role. But yeah, I mean, it comes with a lot of the, yeah, as you said, the campy kind of gore side to it, which is always good fun to do. It was extremely messy, a little bit like more than I was expecting.
Yeah, I think most of the film you had blood on your face at some point.
Yeah, literally all the time. So that was that was a lot of fun. But obviously, as you said, there is a lot of major issues in the film that's done in obviously a satirical way, and I wanted to make sure that was dealt with in the right way as well. But yeah, as you said, there's just so much going on that I kind of had to make sure that I was just kind of seeing everything from Beth's point of view, because there's different arcs and different characters going on, particularly with the headmaster. He's kind of got another storyline going on as well. So yeah, it was yeah, there was just so much to it. And as I said, I always wanted to work with Liam. He's such a nice guy. So yeah, that was kind of what drew me to it more, was just kind of that experience of working alongside him.
Cool.
Right, John?
Hey, how you doing? So I was curious, and I know that Jay's probably got a lot more specific trauma-related questions, so I don't want to jump into that necessarily. But with Eating Miss Campbell, watching the film, I got the impression that there was probably sort of that vibe of improv and that free-flowing improv nature, like with the actors, and it's kind of a fun collaboration. Is that sort of the vibe that you got on set, or was it more stick to the script? This is, no ad-libbing, no improving. I've always kind of wondered that with Trauma productions, how that works.
So I didn't do a lot of ad-libbing. A lot of mine was sticking to the script. But I think, as I said, me and Liam discussed the character so much beforehand that I think we both knew exactly how she'd react to certain situations. But there were certain times when, I'd call Liam and I'd say, hey, I think she might do this like differently and things like that. So he was really flexible. So in that sense, there was a little bit of input from me in that sense of how the character would, maybe not the dialogue, but in terms of how she reacts and certain mannerisms that she had. But I think with other characters, there might have been an element of ad lib. I know that Vito, who played Mr. Sawyer, whether he added a lot more ad libbing into his role. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic in it. So yeah, I think there was definitely potentially an element for that. But from my side, I tended to kind of stick to what was in the script.
Oh, cool. Another movie we all watched and I really liked was Book of Monsters. I'm going to read the synopsis just to give for the viewers out there. It's Sophie's 18th birthday becomes a bloodbath when monsters descend upon her house and start to devour the party guest. Sophie and her friends must rally together to send their party crashers back to hell. So there you go. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of in a way, for me, it was reminiscent of Night of the Demons from the 80s. I don't know if you're a fan of that film, but that sort of vibe. As far as the one thing I really wanted to know in that film is there's a lot of great creature effects in that movie. There's a lot of good practical. Did you get to see a lot of that in process, or was it kind of like you kind of walked into the set and you're like, holy crap, like, what is this thing? I wondered how that was.
Yeah, it was the film was actually a super quick turnaround. So we actually did a Kickstarter for Book of Monsters, and then we ended up shooting like a few weeks later. And one of the options within the Kickstarter was that people could choose which monsters appeared in the film.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was a really quick turnaround in terms of the creature designers, which are DDFX. They were kind of waiting until the Kickstarter had finished, and then it was kind of go in terms of making these designs. So it was very much, I'd turn up on set and be like, okay, this is what we're up against today. So it was, working with those monster effects was so much fun. That was actually my first feature film. So kind of working with practical effects was such a good experience. I mean, there was a few times where it was like, okay, the monster's here now, and you pretend, but when you're actually working up against the monster, it just adds so much, I think, to your performance as well, just because you know exactly what you're going up against. Yeah, and again, a lot of blood in that film. There's so much blood in that film. But yeah, I mean, Dark Rift Horror, who made Book of Monsters, are just absolutely fantastic to work with. And they're very much on the vibe of practical effects, monster movies. That's kind of their thing. So yeah, it was so much fun to film. It really was.
Yeah, that there was I know the end creature, the Pandora that you behead at the end. That's a great design. But the thing that really scared me the most was the wall creature, the wall monster in the bathroom with the heads. Yeah. That was like, I don't think I've seen that a lot in movies. I mean, maybe you've seen some of that kind of stuff before in Nightmare on Elm Street films, but not to that level where it's a human head and then you got the teeth head, and that's so gnarly. I imagine seeing that on set, you were just like, oh, this is
yeah. You've just reminded me, actually, because that was a night shoot we filmed on that, and I've been shooting another scene, and we were on location, so I was just in another room, and I remember walking onto the set, because I'm not in that particular scene, but Dave Jameson, who was playing that monster, I'd seen him beforehand. I went off to do my scene, and I came back, and he had that whole head attached to him, but it was about 4 a.m, and I was like, like I didn't know, you know, when you like don't expect to see that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that one did shock me, but it looked great, and in person it looked even more like it's creepy, that one, really creepy.
Yeah. So a lot of your filmography is horror. Were you a horror fan growing up? Was that something you really tapped into as a child, or was it kind of something that you sort of as an actress just fell into and it's like, hey, I have a knack for this? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I wasn't a big horror fan when I was young. I was scared of everything, literally. I mean, I kind of still am. I always get scared of horror films despite being in them.
Mhm.
But yeah, the only horror film I could watch when I was younger was Scream. It's still my favorite franchise, but it's actually my husband that got me into horror, and he's actually the director of Book of Monsters, Stuart Spark.
Oh, cool.
Um, so he kind of got me into, I mean, he absolutely loves horror and he grew up on it. So it's been him that's kind of got me into watching more of it, and I do watch a lot of horror now.
Mhm.
um but yeah, it was kind of, I'd not watched a great deal of it, which I think kind of helps as well, because I still get scared of it, so it kind of helps when I'm on set and I'm acting, because sometimes it's just genuine fear when these
Mhm.
monsters are coming towards you. But yeah, it wasn't something that I kind of grew up with, but I'm certainly getting into it now.
Oh, cool. And that does seem like to be a reoccurring theme with like horror movies and actors and actresses, to where their performances usually, a lot of the best performances are from people who are not genre fans, just because it's real, right? You are an actor or an actress and you're going into this world and you're reacting. You're not expecting what you're going to see because you're not desensitized to it. So that is a good thing, I think, for these performances. As far as like what you're doing right now, do you want to tap into more non-horror related genres, or do you kind of like the horror genre sticking in that because that's obviously so popular? And I just wanted to know, like, where your goals as an actress, like what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to branch out into other genres, just the kind of challenge of doing other things. I mean, I absolutely love doing horror. It's so much fun, particularly because I've kind of lent more into doing the comedy horror as well.
Mm.
And that's just so much fun to have those two elements together. But I think that's what's so great about horror, is there's so many sub genres to it as well. So I recently did like a ghost paranormal investigative film, and that was more drama driven, but obviously has the horror element as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would absolutely love to do other genres, and do like a nice rom-com or something like that would be lovely. Something where I don't end up covered in blood would be really nice.
Right. Yeah, don't have to sit in the makeup chair and deal with that is a lot, I can imagine. Yeah, so I'm gonna pass to Jay because I know he's probably got a lot of trauma questions, and but thank you.
Well, I have a few. First of all, I think the big three for you film wise would be Zombie Book of Monsters, and Eating Miss Campbell. So in Eating Miss Campbell, you turn 18, people want to eat you. Book of Monsters, you turn 18, monsters want to kill you. So although it's not discussed in Zombie, I assume you had just turned 18 when the zombie apocalypse happened. But for Eating Miss Campbell, I've seen that 2 or 3 times now. Book of Monsters, I've seen several. Zombie I actually watched for the first time this week, and enjoyed it a lot. I'm completely unaware of the web series, so it makes me want to go and check that out as well. It's very The Office meets Shaun of the Dead
Yeah.
kind of feel. So um, you were just the sweet fangirl in that one, obsessed with the blog. So you did anything they wanted. I won't give away what happens to you towards the end. you know, um, Out of those 3 films, which one of those do you think you had the most fun with and enjoyed playing that specific character?
I think Book of Monsters, I think just because, partly because it was not the kind of the first big feature that I'd done. So there's always going to be that kind of special element to that film. But I think I really like the character. I like the journey she went on in the film as well. She kind of goes from that shy, timid girl to the kind of badass monster hunter at the end. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And working with Michaela Longden and Lizzie Stanton, who played Beth and Mona, like, I think we had just really great chemistry together, and it was great fun to kind of work so closely with them. I mean, each film has been super fun to work on, but that, I think Book of Monsters have always hold like a special place for me, I think, just because
Yeah.
it was just an absolute delight. It was a lot of fun.
What's the how's the sequel looking on that? I know they reached their goal that they were trying to get. Has it been shot for the most part, or you have a release date or anything?
Yeah,
like that?
so the majority's been filmed now. I think we've still got a few little bits to do. But again, has that movie taken top thing? That has been so much fun to film. I can't wait for people to see it. So I think, and I know we're obviously discussing about the amount of blood. I had the most blood I've ever had on me in How to Kill Monsters.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was, and again, there's so much practical effects, practical monsters. It's very Book of Monsters vibe. So it's not a direct sequel, but it's kind of the same vibe as Book of Monsters. It was, an absolute blast. It was so much, and a lot of the actors from Book of Monsters have come back for How to Kill Monsters as well. So again, kind of working with them again and just getting back on set, like obviously after COVID and everything like that, just being back with everyone again was fantastic. But yeah, we're very excited to get that film out there, definitely.
Yeah, I messaged you. I was like, I'm so pissed that I missed the Kickstarter, because I never pay attention to Kickstarter, and I should. I definitely will more. I was like, man, there's so much cool stuff you get if you contributed, which I totally would have. But will Eating Miss Campbell get a sequel as well? I know the way it ends, it's suggesting they're going to make another one. Has that been greenlit?
I'm not sure. No. I know Liam's got several kind of projects, I think, in mind, but I'm not sure whether, because I know that obviously his first film, I Believe Banjo, and Eat Miss Campbell's kind of the spiritual sequel to that. So I don't know whether it'll be kind of a spiritual trilogy it would become. But yeah, I'm not sure in terms of what his plans are. And obviously with what happens with my character and just see what happens with that, really. I'm not sure at the moment.
Bloody Banjo's on my list now because I'd never seen it, and as I was watching the movie again, I paid a little bit better attention for this, and I was like, there's a lot of references to this, and I looked it up, so I'll be watching that soon. Eating Miss Campbell's great. I love Trauma, but Trauma's hit or miss. It really is. This is one of the better Trauma movies I've ever seen. The acting from everyone was spectacular. You are very nice as a goth girl. I've always had a thing for goth girls anyways, but you played the role perfectly.
Yeah.
I know Lloyd Kaufman only appears in a video. Did you ever have any interaction with him at all?
No, I've never met him. No, I've never met him.
Tell him I met him once. He's a tiny little man and just sweet as can be. He's like your favorite uncle. Like, he's fantastic.
I've heard a lot of good things about him, but I've never actually met him, because I know that it premiered in New York. It's about 2 weeks ago. But unfortunately I couldn't go. But I know he was there. But yeah, it would be great to meet him one day. But no, I haven't met him, unfortunately.
Do you come to the States often or anything? Like is there any conventions or anything or vacations, I guess?
So we haven't for a while. For Book of Monsters, we came over for quite a few film festivals. So we came over to New York. We did the New York Horror Film Festival, which was amazing. And we did Spooky Empire as well in Orlando. I'm a huge Disney World fan, so we do go to Disney World quite a lot. So I can't really say. So I do go to America a lot, but it tends to be Disney World.
The New York Festival, you won a few awards there, right? Like for effects and things.
Yeah. I think we won Best Effects, Sound Design, and Best Film. It was an amazing festival. We absolutely loved it. So definitely love to go back to that festival again. It was incredible. You
were nominated for a few too. Did you ever actually bring any home? Because you should have.
Oh, thank you. I for Book of Monsters, I didn't. I got a few nominations. For Eat Miss Campbell, I got a Critics' Choice Award for pop horror, which was amazing. So I did get an award for that, which was I was very, very honoured.
Yeah. Let's start to wrap things up a little bit. So Book of Monsters, I've never seen a lawn gnome that spawns from a weird monster larva get demolished with a vibrator. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that particular kill, and I'm kind of an expert on that. But that just shows the originality there, because when a situation like that occurs, you're not thinking on your feet. You're looking around to see what you can smash something with, and there's that vibrator. There's the gnome. Bam, done. Genius. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate all the practical effects. I think CGI is somewhat overrated. Obviously, like movies like Star Wars and the Marvel movies it helps. But for horror movies, there's just something about the practical effects I love. I'm a product of the 80s. I love 80s horror. That's my favorite decade for horror. And that all three of your films kind of resonate that way with me, especially Book of Monsters. I'm super excited for How to Kill Monsters. Does that one take place on Halloween? Because I've seen some photos. I think you're Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
So it's gonna be Halloween. So that makes it that much more fun.
Yeah.
I saw you had another movie on IMDb called Run from Hell. I can't find that anywhere. Is there a way to watch that at all?
It's not out yet.
Okay.
So yeah, we filmed. I've just got quite a small part in that. But I filmed my part just a couple of months ago. So hopefully that'll be out this year. That's the plan. That's the plan. I think it'll hopefully during the festival run later in the year. But yeah, so that one's not out yet.
Awesome. So we'll finish up with one question. How does one become a historical romance book cover model? Because you have a few books under your belt. One of them I just saw last night at Target, which was the Bridgerton.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How did you come across? How did that happen to you, where you became this cover model?
I worked with a photographer. Well, I've worked with her a few times now, and she was doing. She's contacted me and said, "Look, I'm doing a Regency style photo shoot. Do you want to be involved?" And so obviously I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And she works for a company who put their, I think it's called Archangel Images or something like that. And so those images get uploaded onto her page, and then publishers will then go onto that page and search, Regency, brunette, whichever, and they just pick from there. And then I've sort of been fortunate to get quite a few covers, which is very surreal, but I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, as a fanboy, I definitely didn't go to our local used bookstore and look for all of them. I didn't find any, unfortunately, but so that's going to do it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, join the church group on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. This particular episode, go check out Eating Miss Campbell, Trump's new movie with Miss Lyndsey Craine. Go check out Book of Monsters. I think that was on Tubi. It's on Blogalypse, is also on Tubi. You won't be disappointed. Great films, a lot of fun. So this episode's been amazing. Lyndsey, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come chat with us. Tune in next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tune in next week when we take on 1984's Night of the Comet, which is a fun flick, and then followed by another episode the week after with one of the stars of the film. So that gives you a little 2-week preview to look forward to. All right. With Lyndsey, Kellen, John, I'm Jay. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.